WNST with Oriole raindrops and Capital playoff games and the running of this little race out at Old Hilltop in Pimlico. But amidst all of this, a massive, massive story for horse racing in our state, as well as casinos, certainly the Orioles, the Ravens, and anywhere sports are played in our fine country. Gambling and the Supreme Court coming together to give states rights, and you can go bet on the New York Yankees or against the Baltimore Orioles at Monmouth Park 2 weeks from Monday. Brett Smiley has been covering this from the beginning at Sports Handle, formerly out of Fox Sports. He is an attorney and a writer. You can find him at Brett Smiley on Twitter as well as at sportshandle.com. And he joins us now to be the first of many, I'm sure, to try to put this into perspective. First things first, Brett, welcome. Good day. I know you've been on this from the beginning, which is one of the reasons Jimmy and I worked together to get you on. I'm going to talk to a lot of people about this. It's a little outside of my purview. I'm not a legal guy. I'm a business guy and a sports guy and a marketing guy and all that. I'm not a gambler, per se. I go to Vegas. I've put a few dollars on a game here and again, but it's not my thing. But this is a monumental thing for anyone that owns a sports franchise, and this is going to affect everything about the way sports is in this country over the next 10 years.
For sure, yeah, and we'll help everyone wrap their arms around this. It's definitely a huge decision coming out of your neck of the woods. We'll see if Maryland will get on board anytime soon. There's a bit of a development there. But, yeah,
well, we've always been a little slow to act. I mean, when I knew that, when I saw the slot machines at Delaware, the slot machines at Penn Nat, the slot machines in West Virginia, and I said, well, when are we going to get on board? It only took them 15 years around here. They almost killed the horse racing industry.
Yeah, well, you guys get that pretty new national harbor. I'm sure MGM would like to put a sports book in there, but it may be a year or so.
Well, and look, Jersey's on the front end of this, right? I mean, the press release was, 5 minutes later, they're like, we're open for business on Memorial Day. It's not going to be that easy for everyone. Why did this take so long? What's the mafia at work here? And I probably shouldn't even ask you that, knowing the government's involved here. I've seen their work lately. But in getting this done at this point, this has been going on in Europe forever. I mean, there is a stigma, much like marijuana, and I know they've been sort of linked together as taboos for our parents and our grandparents and all that stuff. But, I was in Denver 2 weeks ago. It's like video stores on every corner. I don't know what this is going to mean 5-10 years from now, but I was at Laurel on Derby Day, and starts to look like Vegas at Laurel now, and they sort of smell it, and the horse racing industry has seen this coming. But I don't know that the Baltimore Orioles see this coming. I don't know that the Baltimore Ravens see a betting parlor behind my seats in 513 where I can go wager on whether Flacco is going to run or pass the ball next time. But that's where we are. Lamar Jackson will deal with this during his career if he plays long enough that you'll be able to go into the back and bet on a Ravens game at a Ravens or from your seat, literally, right?
Yeah, as far as assessing blame, I think Eagle Shares goes to Congress circa 1992 when the law was passed, and the sports leagues, in particular the NFL. It was Commissioner Paul Tagliabue at the time. He testified on the necessity of this federal ban, and basically they just froze in time where sports wagering was at the time, and it was really only in Nevada and to a limited extent some of that NFL parlay wagering in Delaware.
Well, and by the way, in a bar near you, in a back room, in a basement, down an alley, around the corner, at the water cooler. I mean, the gambling's been going on, right? I mean, it's like the weed smoking. It's been going on. It's just a matter of where you're getting it and how you're getting it. It didn't stop gambling, and as much as they stopped putting point spreads up on NFL Network, I mean, I go back to Jimmy the Greek talking about the intangibles, and we got 3, we're going to lay 3 in Dallas. And, they used to talk about it like that, but there is a point from the league's perspective where when you have NBA officials throwing games, as we've seen recently, boy, everyone starts to itch about integrity, right?
Sure, and that law didn't work. It stopped legal sports betting, so no other state could legalize, and that's why this thing boiled down to the states' rights. But ultimately, yeah, illegal sports betting has flourished. There's an estimated 150, if not $400 billion wagered illegally. So all they did was help a black market flourish, local bookie, Vinny at the butcher shop, all the offshore casinos in Costa Rica, Philippines, wherever.
Well, they made a big thing to go after them a number of years ago. I mean, look, I own a radio station, so BetUS would call me, and the federal government would say, if you take money from them, we're going to treat you like we're treating Michael Cohen, right? I mean, literally, that was the word 10, 12 years ago when the internet caught on, is that you would hear these BetUS ads, but FCC license holders were being threatened. I promise you. I got that letter. My attorney said, don't take their money out of Costa Rica. You shall be. You don't want to have those lawyers raining down on you from the federal government, accusing you of being an international criminal, right?
Sure. They passed the additional law, the UEIGA. It was tacked on and snuck in, and that created a whole new layer of making it difficult to deposit and withdraw online. But when there's a will, there's a way, and sports bettors have a pretty heavy will, and it's happening, and it's now going to start happening out in the open, with probably 6, 7 states by the end of this year are going to have sports wagering legalized.
What 6 or 7 states? Run me through who's at the front. We know New Jersey's there. Obviously, Vegas and Nevada has been on to this for a long time. Where's going to be the new hotspot that everybody flew to Denver to get high 3 years ago? Now you go get a goofy card and you can do it in most places. I would think that this is going to happen even quicker than weed.
Yeah, it's going to start out. A lot of the action's happening in the Northeast quarter. New Jersey, they're going to, like you said, sports betting in 11 days. Pennsylvania and West Virginia, they both already legalized. They just need to get their infrastructure and some of the regulations in place. Mississippi, maybe a bit of surprise, but they made similar moves last year. And I think New York is going to get something done before the end of its session. And there's states all across the country, some with later deadlines, like Michigan, they may be on board. And then, Delaware, of course. And then by the end of next year, you may be looking at another dozen.
Brett Smiley is our guest. You can follow him at Brett Smiley out on Twitter as well as at sportshandle.com. He's an attorney and a writer. The first of what I'm sure will be many people who are going to be joining me. And Brett, I'm going to ask sort of a very universal question. First off, I'm not a sports gambler. I've done this for 33 years. I'm in locker rooms. I don't feel any more privy to knowing how healthy Joe Flacco is than anyone else to be shaving points off and saying, hey, Flacco's back's no good this week, bet against him. It's just never been where my head is, right? And I talk point spreads sometimes. I used to more, in the earlier days of my radio career than I have lately. I'm still sort of interested in the games and the teams. I'm not a laundry waiver per se, but I've got a fantasy team. It's the Ravens. When they win, I feel good. On Sunday, when they lose, I don't need to be rooting for Ben Roethlisberger to throw 3 touchdowns to Antonio Brown so I beat you in my $10 pool or whatever. But in the real term of people who do gamble, and wink, wink, I know a few of you, what's this going to mean? Like, what's this going to look like for my pal Pete that likes to throw $100 on or against the Ravens or the Yankees, or, trying to take down John Lester on a Tuesday night or whatever it is? How is this going to be made easier, differently? Where's the VIG? Will VIG be 10? Will it be when casinos compete, you win like the banks, where there will be extra value for wagerers in some way? And certainly, I can't imagine the lockdown and the paranoia where, look, I deal with John Harbaugh every day of my life. He's one of the most paranoid dudes I've ever met in my life, in any walk of life, and, right up there with Belichick and the rest of them. And they're not all that way, but they're all going to become that way. Like, I cover hockey. He's got an injury. Yeah, well, lower body or upper body? Upper body. Well, I saw Backstrom's hand get taken. And then you wager off of that. It's never been in my mindset to do that, but the information and the integrity. And look, I'll hear the NFL's argument right away, which is our officials are going to get murdered like Columbia if we're not careful with how this works. So I am very concerned about that part of it.
About the integrity part of it?
All of it. All of it. How does this go from Vinny in the back room to out into the light comfortably? And what does it mean for the guy laying the $20 or the $50 or the $100 bet on a Sunday?
Well, there's kind of 2 classes of people. There's your buddy Ronnie or Paul, who already is wagering, whether it's with an offshore or a local bookie. And then there's other friends that they might like to put down $5, $15, $20 on the Sunday night football game that otherwise isn't interesting, but they'll be able to do so now through a legal sports book. And the types of legislation that we're seeing is that the licenses will go to the existing brick-and-mortar casinos, so the Horseshoe in Baltimore, which is operating out of Nevada. They'll probably have similar wagering menus to the ones that you see in Nevada and offshores. As far as the integrity, it's been NBA commissioner and other leagues' position that a legal regulated framework only improves or enhances the integrity of their games. It's out in the open. They can better monitor line movements. They can commiserate with some of the sports books, see if there's anything funny going on. And the only real hurdle in this whole process has been that the leagues have been opposed because they want to find a way to get a direct cut.
And they shall, right? I mean, in the end, the NFL will get their 1%, which to some people that are smart like you tells me it's closer to 20%, right? When you do what the casino would be getting if they give 1% to the league. Correct,
because it's actually the NBA and Major League Baseball has been doing the heavy lifting, the lobbying state by state on that front, and they want 1% off the top, which is the difference. They don't want it off the operator revenue. So for every $100 that a sportsbook takes, the leagues would get one. They would divvy it up based on where it was bet, and the sportsbooks would come away with about their typical 5% profit. So the way it works out is that they're asking for actually a rather large cut of the action. States, by and large, have not been receptive to their arguments. West Virginia, they thumbed their nose. New Jersey is probably laughing when they got the request. Nevada, they've been doing it, and they haven't paid a dime. So at this point, the Supreme Court ruling went against them, so they're going to go to members of Congress and see if they can find an ear. Yeah, I'm sure the president will help them out. I'm sure he did last year. Brett Smiley is our guest. He's at sportshandle.com, attorney and writer, formerly of Fox Sports. You've really been following this from the beginning. Was this your prediction? 5 years ago, would you say in 2000, by 18, by 20, I'll be able to go into a racetrack or into a casino in downtown Baltimore and bet on or against the Orioles? 5 years ago, I wouldn't have predicted this. Daily fantasy, I think, expedited what has happened. You had NFL owners invested in a couple of the companies. The leagues are all partnered with them. There's signage everywhere. I really didn't know when this was going to happen. But when the court took the case, that was a signal that, hey, they probably have something to say here. After hearing oral arguments, that was the popular sentiment. So the ultimate ruling here, not a surprise. But the fact that it happened at all, I wasn't holding my breath, but didn't know if and when it would happen. All right, Brett, the hell with all this gambling stuff. Let's get to something important here. How many Pearl Jam shows you seen this summer? Oh, man. They are mostly touring in Europe. I haven't seen one this summer. Have you? Planes fly to Europe, by the way. I just see, and it's fun over there. The crowds are good. I'm going to, believe it or not, a sun-drenched Big Sky evening in Missoula, Montana in August. My wife and I have chosen to see Yellowstone Park and do the thing, that old faithful thing that geysers up and all that. And we're going to drive out of Denver. We're actually going to see a couple bucket list things. Jeff Lynne and ELO are playing in Denver on the 8th of August, and then we have 5 days to make our way. I saw a Pearl Jam in Missoula in 1995 during the baseball strike at the little arena they have there, because Jeff Amen's from Missoula. So this will be my second go-round, first this century, with Pearl Jam. I did the 2 shows at Wrigley 2 summers ago that they made the movie and all that. Those are some special nights. And my wife and I were threatening Poland and threatening Germany this summer around the 4th of July, but we're going to do Missoula instead. So that's my deal. Why go home? Because it's the Big Sky State, and my wife wants to see a bald eagle in the wild. There you go. Well, they're going to be up at Fenway, I think, around September, and I'd blown most of my budget to take my wife to Bruce on Broadway in July. I did that in November too. Yeah. I'm a Bruce guy. My wife and I chased Bruce around New Zealand and Australia last year. So I saw the last E Street show in Auckland. So I was there. Oh, wow. I was there as he wait, and I'm starting to believe that was the last E Street show. All of a sudden, he likes this Broadway thing. I haven't figured it out yet. Why he'd want to do the same thing every night of his life for a year? It just seems a little against the grain to me. Sure, I don't know how I can tolerate doing that week after week, but now they've extended through the end of the year. But that guy's got more energy than any of us.
Dude, you can go see Max. You can go see Niels, right? You can go see little Stevie. They're out running around a little bit as well. So, Brett, we'll check in and be alive and check out some rock and roll a little later on. And I will catch back up with you because I want to see how this thing sort of, matriculates into Maryland before it's all over with.
Sure. And, I was reading the Baltimore Sun earlier today. They're talking about possibly having a special session, not specifically about this, but to have this come up and potentially put it on the ballot for in November, a referendum on it. So,
I think the Cordish family and the MGM folks will be putting plenty of pressure on the state government here to make this legal after watching what happened here with Delaware, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia for about a quarter of a century. So, we'll see if we drag our feet. We're Maryland. We get things, at some point they happen around here. Even the Orioles will get fixed at some point. Brett, a pleasure having you on, man. Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You got it. There he goes, a Pearl Jam fan, an attorney, and a writer, formerly at Fox Sports, now at Sports Handle. He is Brett Smiley. That's Smiley, out on Twitter. Go follow him for all the gambling and the inside on the Supreme Court decision. First guest, but first of many. Got a lot of things going on here, man. I'm trying to squeeze in horse racing, Capitals Eastern Conference Finals, Orioles awfulness and going to Boston, as well as the NBA Finals. We got lacrosse playoffs. There's just too much going on this week. So I'm chilling out, plenty of time to get to plenty of stuff. I can only do them one at a time. Out in the BuyAToyota.com Audio Vault, you can pick what you listen to, when, where, why, all that good stuff. It's all available. You can download the TuneIn Radio app as well at WNST.net. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me. Trying to get in on this gambling thing and figure it all out as I'm trying to figure out other parts of the world as well. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.